chicken on DoorDash. Never seen it before. I'm like, I'm cool. And I'm like, their chicken looks lit. Dog. You'll see this fucking sandwich they sent me?
Sure, let's see.
Now, I want to say, I'm not necessarily upset about it. You know, like I don't think it's bad. It reminds me of like nostalgic like cafeteria food back in high school. But this is what the fuck the sandwich looks like. They had this crispy shit that looked. Listen, say what you will about Popeye's chicken, but at least the shit looks like how it does on the tin.
Yeah, I'll give it that. You have a point.
Mm.
I don't know. That kind of looks like a Tyson chicken patty in a sandwich.
I ain't mad at it. What I am mad about is that I spent $6.99 on it with a side of fries.
Also, probably good to let you know right now, Sunday probably not gonna happen because your boy is going to an open bar restaurant that's been privately shut down. So
We'll do it next weekend then.
bet. But
And
yeah, real quick, just to give people some context, back to what we were talking about and the subject of this video. I'm not saying outright that I'm Republican. I think it's fair to say that I have.
we're definitely not. You have some sussy shit. You sometimes say some sussy shit. Oh, you're not a Republican.
I think
You're a centrist.
Yeah, and here's my thing. The reason why I say I'm more centrist is because Democrats tend to overcorrect on their corrections. And why do I say that?
Yeah,
Good
give an
example
example.
of this. Will do. And I know you said don't bring up federal law, don't bring state laws.
I'm not saying we can't talk about them, but what I am saying is that the needs of state, local, and state are different from federal. Because federal is like the most pure distillation of what should and shouldn't exist in terms of like rights and shit. Mainly because states shouldn't have a any say over like what human rights are. That should be
Yeah,
its federal thing.
I think I'm just going to use like state legislation to just explain why on a federal scale I would then agree with the opposite side. So let me explain what I mean. I'm not sure if you're aware, but California right now is experiencing higher than usual gas prices. Gas
Right?
prices going through the roof. And it's
And which
mainly,
affects you because you're a DoorDash driver.
no, gas at home gas. So you might not know this, but the majority of stoves are gas ranges in the West Coast. It's not really the case for a lot of East Coast. Florida doesn't have any gas stoves, just as an example. But anyway, California, higher gas prices are soaring. They're like 5% more than they were last year, which is a huge increase because usually it only goes up like 1 or 2% per year. What
Right.
I don't understand is if hypothetically liberalism is a good idea, right?
Right.
What I don't understand is how does liberalism help the lower class? Because I'm in a
It
democratic
doesn't.
state, and this is
It does
what I'm saying.
because liberalism is all about the social. What you're looking for is leftism. Leftists like myself have really good economic ideas that, while might stamp on the freedoms of very well-to-do wealthy people, at the end of the day, they don't get the fact that they might not under a system that we create might not get to own more than two properties or get to sit on their ass all day and not really have to work because they own businesses that pay them checks out of their net profit. Generally speaking, that take the homelessness crisis, of which something you being someone in LA, you kind of see the result of daily. The solution to that is decommodification of housing. Like that's the solution.
Real quick, just to jump in there, then I respect your position. I think for this conversation, though, let's try to not have our nuanced view be what the society is going off of, or like what we're actually going off of. Because, and what I mean by that is, I love your idea. This idea of being leftist versus liberal, great idea. But liberals are in power. That's kind of
Well,
what
do you,
I'm
well,
saying.
right, but do you know that we lefties have a saying that whenever you scratch a liberal, a fascist bleeds?
I mean, if that's a saying, cool. Here's-
Before we hop back into it, let me at least explain what I mean.
Mm.
Liberals, as you tend to go along to get along. Liberals, while wanting to change aspects of the status quo, they were more willing to work within institutional powers to try and fix it and pretend that those institutional powers are good. They believe in institutional power and things of that nature.
I wish I had a laptop or something.
You're
But
you're good. And the reason I say that is that let's take the Weimar Republic, which was the Republic of Germany before the Nazis took over.
Mm.
The people who were yelling about the Nazi Party were communists, socialists, social democrats, people left of center, further lefter than left of center, and the people who were just trying to say, oh, if we just have Hitler be the chancellor, and then you give him and then we give him, and the conservatives give him a cabinet, he'll de-radicalize with time. Let's work within the system and try and fight him within the thing, and then you have the Night of Broken Glass, and you have the night, and then you have fucking Pledge Week at the Reichstag, and fucking Night of Black Night, and it's like the reason why we would say something like every time you scratch a liberal, a fascist bleeds is because it's like my critique of centrism. Liberals never go further. Will always go. In centrists are like this more too. I will if when the right does something like I don't know,
use the abortion thing as an example.
they'll
I
use the
feel like
abortion thing as or put children migrants in cages and all of this shit that never pushes a centrist or a liberal for that matter further to the left. You might be a couple, but broadly speaking, whenever Bernie Sanders talks about single payer or even something less radical like, a public option, they recoil and they go no, I like my health care that I spend $3,000 a month to maintain basic coverage, that type of shit. So can you really say that when that throughout the modern era up until maybe a little bit recently that I would argue even that centrists and stuff don't even recoil at the dumb shit that the most radical wings of the Republican Party are doing now. It's not pushing them left. They're just staying where they are.
Yeah, and okay, and on that point, I think it's also fair to say sometimes liberals or left-leaning individuals, let's say it like this, left-leaning individuals also tend to keep going left, and even when maybe they should go a little right. And what I mean by that is
Right.
sometimes there are legislations in place and proposed to try and combat other legislation that might have passed federally.
Okay.
Right? Those things and those protections tend to be that overcorrection that I brought up earlier.
Give an example, because what you just said was a lot of words with not a lot of substance.
Very
No, I
vague.
don't. I just realized what I said might have come off a little backhand. That wasn't my intent.
No, I didn't feel that way, but I appreciate it. What I mean by that is, so I bring up again, I'm only going to bring up California local legislation and then explain why on federal tier that wouldn't necessarily be a good idea, or even this idea being not that good anyway. Okay,
Okay.
let's get into it. So, an example of what I'm saying is LA, California, I think the state maybe, but I believe either Los Angeles, the county, or the state of California has gone to protect individuals who have tried to get an abortion in a less traditional way. What does that mean? They have passed a legislation, a law, that pretty much allows it for not really a medical professional to be present during any time of an abortion,
Uh-huh.
and they don't really want to investigate if a death occurs outside of the infant, and they no longer have to also what's it called, report that this happened. Now, wait, just real
I've
quick.
heard so in my defense, I run in lefty circles of news, and I also look at like mainstream news. I question so that leaves me to think that
Mhm.
this is something that comes out of right of center news sources, which I am inherently skeptical of. Not like I'm not skeptical in them in the way like a Fox News viewer is skeptical of like of like a CNN. I'm skeptical of it because left wing, like places that are governed by left wing politics, like news sources, like what actual left wing. I'm talking about the Lever, the Secular Talk is another good one.
I'm sorry to
The
interrupt
Traveler
here.
Institute.
I just don't think this point is going to hold any weight, because where I got this information from was a post on Instagram, Shade Room. So I wouldn't say that it's necessarily Republican sided. Hold on, wait. Let me
I thought the
finish.
shade. The shade. Well, I know, but I'm like the shade. Isn't the shade room's only purpose to like just riot? Like just from all I know about the shade room is that its whole purpose of existence is to paint the black community in the most negative light possible.
No, it's like a, I don't want to speak for it because obviously I'm not a spokesperson, but it's kind
True.
of like a black view of some of the news that's gone on. I wouldn't say that it has an inherently negative connotation to it. But that being said, I saw the initial post about this specific law on Instagram on the Shade Room, and then I looked it up on California's actual like explanation of the law. So it just, it goes from requiring everybody to report when an abortion happens, and God forbid any health complications regarding the mother. It no longer places has that. Oh, that's yummy to see. It just,
Dog, this place fucking is foul. Oh my god. Hold on. Pause for a fucking second. I need to go get some goddamn. I need to go get some goddamn water. Ugh. I'll be right back. I'll be right back. Talk to the camera. Just talk shit. I don't know shit. Oh my god, this is fucking awful. Oh my god. Fuck. Ugh. That was the most foul fucking mashed potatoes I've. It didn't even taste. It tastes rotten. What? I can't hear you. You're muted.
well, I was over here giving a whole lecture to everybody, and nobody heard a word I said.
Not a damn
Um,
thing. That's tragic. Hmm.
I thought it was ice cream.
Yo,
That shit did not look like mashed potatoes. I wouldn't eat that, Evan. Why the fuck would you put that in your mouth?
I I was trying a new business, a local business, giving them a shot. Oh my god, they made me eat my fucking words. I'm gonna still eat that on a sandwich, but fuck these mashed potatoes, because I paid for this shit. You know, I'm about to like dead ass go on DoorDash. Like,
Up, I think we lost you. Yeah, I don't think you can leave. I think you got to stay. You probably can't hear me. But what's up, people? I see two people in chat. Can I see who's here? Live chat. Whatever. Well, Evan's gone again. I don't really know where he went. But yeah, we're talking a little bit about politics. Nothing crazy. We're not getting into a, you know, a whole heated debate. We're just having a light conversation about centrism versus liberalism versus conservatism, and like what might be the best point of view. Not saying anybody should change their personal opinions, because affects y'all's life. And I hate when people, regardless who, I hate when people try to claim that you need to follow other people's advice. That's not
Sorry,
fucking right.
I didn't hear a single thing you said. What's up? Hey,
I was talking
broadcast.
to the
What's up?
audience.
You're good.
Yeah, I was just saying, what's it called? Kind of what we
If I
were
wake up
talking
with
about.
food poisoning tomorrow, y'all fucking know why.
Yeah, but let me
Yo.
just finish this point because we keep getting away from it.
Yeah, go
My
ahead.
only concern here is the less reporting and what that might constitute. Because I'm not the
You're
mass
worried about the
majority
safety
of,
issues you're worried about the safety issues and things like that going under the radar. I
and
think
on,
I think that's a valid concern. I would all I would
real
I
quick,
while I go ahead, go
uh,
ahead. I actually
I
don't
just
disagree with you. I
I
actually don't
just want
disagree
to
with you.
I want to vocalize this point also though, because I do understand the idea of you're now supposed to be worried about whether or not a federal government or a state government is going to investigate you personally for an abortion if you go to California from a place that abortion isn't legal. I understand that. But in understanding that, I think it's also fair to be like, hey, at the end of the day, abortions were legalized 100 and something years ago because so many pregnant women were dying. That's the main reason why abortion became
Ab-
legal.
Abortions are legal not because they people need like not because of the legality, but because they need to because legality makes them safe.
Safe
And
and
so I
open
do want to ask a
access.
clarifying question about this though.
Yes, please.
I would wager that if a woman died on the table because because she went to get an abortion for whatever, which doesn't fucking happen, but if it like in safe environment like sterile environments, I would wonder what would be if an abortion has occurred, aside from noting it for some statistical reasons or whatever, there shouldn't need to be any tie to that act happening that somebody got one. I would also argue that if someone died on the table for whatever reason because of that, at one of these less reputable things, people will come looking. Like, listen, cops are incompetent. We know this, but what I will say is that if an abortion, um, if it like why count the actual abortions themselves? If someone like died or was injured, like the record of that is like still being kept. Like it's not like they're go ahead.
Okay, let me just interrupt very quickly. So, the law doesn't necessarily say you have to go to an abortion clinic to get an abortion. It's saying as long as there's a medical professional there in the form of a nurse or somebody who's going to assist it, as long as that's their licensed position, then you're good to get it. And that's why I'm saying safety is my main concern because if you're not going to an abortion clinic and
Okay.
you have, let's say you're best friends with somebody, and I'm using an anecdotal point, I'm not saying this is the actual counterpoint, right? But I'm just
Mhm.
saying if you have a close friend with a nurse or somebody who is then licensed to perform abortions, it is extremely more likely, and this is just my personal opinion. I feel like it's more likely that a mistake will occur. Maybe not a life ending mistake, but that a mistake might occur because you're going off of the sense with a friend as opposed to a professional. That's kind of that's what I'm saying there.
I think I I'm not saying that a scenario like that wouldn't occur, but what I will say is women I think we got to give a little bit more credit to women for the standards that they would expect when getting a procedure like that. So here's what I'd say. What I see this being is not a like what I like is a case are cases like you described probably will happen maybe sometimes maybe rarely
Yeah. I also
But
just
like
want to say,
but also like if someone like I don't think many medical professionals that care about their license would be doing backroom abortions because that's how you can get nailed for medical malpractice. What I think this law might actually be doing is allowing surgical residents to be able to do these procedures, not just people licensed
what do you
because
what do you mean?
to do. Here's what I mean. So in hospitals, you have residents. Residents are new doctors who are training to become doctors and surgeons, and they are overseen by attendings. And these attendings are usually the ones that are teaching the residents how to do procedures. Like you have residents who aren't full like the 7 years of training for being a doctor
Mm.
is not just college. Like that's just to get your doctorate. There's still about another 5 years after that. And the reality is, um, if you have to be licensed to do an abortion, why wouldn't you be licensed to do a appendix removal? Something that is significantly more invasive and significantly more dangerous. I would argue that not that making it so doctors who are licensed to do it, like I think that making it so more doctors are able to perform an abortion is a good thing, and I think that's more of what the law is about. Yes, I'm not negating like your scenario, but I think those are might be a little more rare than you're giving them credit for.
The scenario wasn't my main like counter to that. Real quick, I just want to catch people up. If you join late, we're discussing California proposed a new law to combat some of the other state laws that restrict abortion. Long story short, you no longer really require a doctor as long as somebody is licensed to perform an abortion. That being said, it doesn't necessarily require them to go to a clinic, but like Evan just pointed out, that's definitely not going to be the case for the mass scale. And
I would also argue to double down,
mm,
um, home births. The birthing of a human is a violent and volatile and very physically damaging process to a woman.
yeah, I'm
And
trying to understand.
and people hire doulas all the time and to like give Tristan Berrien, our friend from choir,
Real
his
quick,
mother was the doula.
just throwing this out there, do not perform coat hanger abortions. Just throwing that
No,
out there.
don't.
Please don't.
Literally just drop the $500 on gas and get to a place and get to a state with a free clinic if you can.
And just on the topic of birthing, we shouldn't even be on our backs for birthing. It literally makes it harder. But
Yeah, I know, but my point remains the same. Like
I get okay.
I would argue that that childbirth is infinitely more a more physically dangerous and traumatic experience for a woman's body than an abortion is.
Oh,
So
I'm not saying it's a dangerous procedure.
so
Hold
I
on,
think
wait,
so for
wait,
me
wait,
like
wait.
the issues of safety are like
Evan,
always something.
acknowledge and voice some of your points, right? Counter, not counter like we're arguing, but counter some points, right? So you brought up about how the possibility of if somebody is whether illegally here or they aren't in the system medically, meaning with whatever the fuck, and they don't necessarily trust Planned Parenthood, the LGBTQ Center, all of these places that perform abortions. I'm kind of worried that this also allows a more dangerous alternative for those marginalized people. You get what I'm saying here?
Can you explain it to me one more time? I'm sorry, I was just timing somebody out.
No, no worries. I feel like if you make the not saying that abortion shouldn't be open and accessible and safe, but if you make even a possibility of unsafe abortions to this demographic of people who may not have medical insurance. People
Should I risk this peach cobbler?
try a little bit, but if you do have to spit it out, don't do it on camera. Yay?
It's alright. Not as bad as that shit. Certainly not good enough to eat more of. Makes me want to make real peach cobbler. So
But
summarize it for me. What are you trying to say?
so if you're somebody who's marginalized, you don't have enough money to maybe pay for an abortion, and you don't have the means to get it paid for you, whether that be financial aid, taxes, whatever the fuck, or insurance.
If you have access to
Yo, who the fuck do you have in your comment section, dog? We got motherfuckers proposing coat hanger abortions and pushing niggas down the stairs. That's too
Mango. Yeah, I don't think that's appropriate. But here's my thing. In regards, I mean,
yeah.
the solution to that is to stop. You're good, Mango. I get it.
Nah,
So
I'm
Mango,
only playing.
you know. But
But go ahead.
the fact of the matter is, dog, is that like that like that's fair, but like an abortion won't like. There's still always like in places with Planned Parenthoods, abortions are you're good, Mango. Just listen, we're vibing. Enjoy your freaking
This is
tequila. Like we're chilling. It's all good. I timed him out. I think he thought I offended. You're good, bro. I appreciate it. It's but what I was gonna say was Planned Parenthood like does abortions for free.
I
Genuinely.
know.
And
I know.
if you need them quickly, you go to a hospital, and that's when you get charged $800, $900, a grand, like that type of shit.
But
So like, so
real quick, I'm only asking this because I don't necessarily know. I've never had to go to Planned Parenthood for an abortion.
because you're not a fucking dumbass like half of the motherfuckers we've known who nutted in a girl without ever thinking about it.
What I wanted to ask is, do you have to prove that you make a certain amount for you to be eligible for free abortions,
No,
or is it free across the board?
no. Planned Parenthood is as close as we have to like actual socialized medicine. You just walk in. You might pay a tiny amount of money for like the materials used. I didn't. Like I went there and got a venereal disease test. You know, just because I hadn't fucking gotten one in this 8 months I'd been with Meadow, and I thought it might be a good idea for both of us to get tested just in case, because neither of us, because I'd never actually been tested before up until that point. And I thought it was a good idea, and I did it. And I thought, and my experience with Planned Parenthood was great. The doctor was this wonderful woman, you know, black woman from Wilmington local. I had zero issues whatsoever. It was great. And I
Yeah,
didn't pay, and I didn't
8
pay
months.
anything. I literally didn't pay anything. I just showed up for my appointment. I, you know, I think I might have paid like $20, you know, just for like the tests themselves.
Yeah,
That was it.
yeah, because
Because they
there's
charge you
some
for
programs
for
that will help.
disposable materials. You know, the service is free.
Yeah, I just didn't know if the service was free across the board, or if it was like you have to show you make a certain amount
No,
under.
they
So
don't give a
that's
fuck.
good.
You
But yeah,
the reason Planned Parenthood exists was so middle and lower class income women get could get feminine care, OBGYNs, gynecological care, things like that nature, for free or reduced prices.
yeah, I'm just like, oh, also to your point of why do you need to have any documentation for abortions? There are quite a few reasons. So one of the reasons is if you're using the fetus cells and materials for further research, which you can do because it's a basic level. On a cellular level, it's a human. I'm not saying that it's living in somebody's stomach. I'm not saying that. I'm not
No,
trying to
of
be
course
that
not. It's a
fucking
fucking
conservative.
petri dish.
But what's it called? If you have documentation from that, you then are able to perform experiments and shit like that. It's added to the inventory of the hospital or clinic or whatever,
Okay,
wherever.
that sounds valid, but like that's
That's one of the reasons.
if that's something you care about, if that's something you care about, I don't think you would try and
I
get
think
it.
I think
I,
states should provide that type of data. But
I don't mind. I get where you're coming from with that, but it's like, do you really think that a woman who feels like she needs to get an abortion done, like with a doctor friend that she knows, take like doing it for her and in the comfort of her, like in her home, do you really think that she's concerned in that moment about scientific futures and stuff like that?
no, I'm not saying for the mother. That was never the point. The point was, why would you want documentation from an abortion procedure?
Well, no,
And
I know, well, right, but I'm like, that's the thing. It's like you
if
have
you're
to remember
saying,
at the end of the day, we are two men talking about this, which is we're talking at the end of the day, we're two men talking about um a woman's issue, effectively.
yeah, but not hold on, wait. Not the act of abortion itself. Extraneous circumstances resulting from performing an abortion. I'm talking about, let's say it from the medical procedure side and the medical data that you would collect from a procedure like that. I'm not saying from the point of view from the mother, the father, anybody involved on the personal level of the abortion. I on that point, I don't care. Go do whatever you want to do. That's where the centrist in me comes out, which is, hey, I'm not going to try and stop you. But
Okay.
I think, I think, but I do think it's fair to say, hey, at a certain point, I think we should maybe nail down when it is wrong to start having an abortion. And I think for the most part, many people agree where that starts to happen. But in the vagueness of politics, right? Because all politics is gray area after gray area. I think creating definitive points and creating definitive limits would benefit us in a longer term way.
Okay. So then so I mean, nobody
Definitely
likes
not
the
saying though. I just want to say I'm not saying anybody is getting an abortion like a day before they're pregnant, the day before they deliver their child. I don't want that to be like my
right, but and at the same time, like if a mother gets to the third trimester, she
you
wanted
had
that.
time. You had
Like,
time.
right, but here's the thing. Here, the reason why it's legal, like it's as legal as possible, is because you have sycophants in right-wing state governments across this nation who would love to ban it for any reason, and they
Oh,
have banned it for any reason. And here's the
definitely.
thing: it's like it's like you know, let's use guns as an example.
Okay.
It is I would argue that banning abortion, like there is
Let's clean this up a little bit. Federal ban or state banning?
like let's say the the effect will be the same, just on different numbers of people. So if you ban abortions in the third trimester, what you effectively happen is that, and if a woman gets a complication with the birth, maybe a punctured uterus, the baby is stillborn, uh, things of that nature. What ends up happening is you have a woman who very well might die, or even die of sepsis, because you have a dead body living in her body that she can't abort until her due date. That doctors' hands are tied, and I want to remind you, we are already seeing this. A report came out
Mm,
of Texas that after they did their highly stringent abortion ban,
mm.
banning abortions after 6 weeks. A time frame, by the way, that most women don't even know they're pregnant. That the amount of women who had died as a result of doctors not wanting to perform medically necessary abortions because of due to complications, ectopic pregnancies, and the like, the amount of women who died who would have lived if they had gotten one was 87%.
So wait, hold on, bear with me.
And
What?
I want to also say that they delayed this report coming out until after the midterms.
Well, I mean, they both
Politics,
sides.
baby.
Hold on, wait. Both sides held off information that would have definitely impacted the midterms.
I'm just
Not
saying.
saying. Wait.
I'm just saying that I'm just saying that like that. You know, fatalities of women across this country because of Republicans' abortion ban fascination. I'll be honest. I don't give a fuck about the Biden files because they're both it's like apples to oranges. They're both fruit, but that's where the comparison stops. And the reason I say that is because Trump denied he had them. Then he said he was allowed to have them, and then he says he had he like. Meanwhile, Biden like found them, immediately started looking for more, and turned them all over. While yes, holding it off like before the midterms was absolutely like some shady shit. I'm just saying that there's severities here.
Oh, if we're gonna talk about this, I'm down to talk
We
about
will.
this.
Let's just wrap up the
I
previous
think
conversation.
definitely. So your point of what was the last thing you said before we started talking about the Biden and Trump papers?
I was saying the statistic of women who have died um, because they weren't able to get medically necessary uh, natal care, prenatal care.
Yeah, I think I'm just saying abortions, not medically required abortions, not life-saving abortions.
So you would
Just
so you would say a doctor would need to sign off on it
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no,
after
no.
a certain point.
Exactly. I think
Okay.
once you enter, let's say, uh, what 9 months? I'd say after the, and obviously I'm not coming out with legislation right here, but after the 7 month mark, right? You had 7 months to think about this. Your life has been starting to structure around. Wait. Hold on. Stop.
No, no, I agree. Most women who are hit month 7 want the kid.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying
Like
if there's
if anything, it might prevent coercion from like other people to get rid of it.
yeah, that's kind of what that's kind of what I was saying. I was saying if there is a huge life shift, right? God forbid you get divorced or you lose your job and you're like, I don't know about this, and you're at the 7 month mark. Adoption is a fair enough alternative, but
It
hey,
is,
I
but
get
it's
it.
very hard to legally give up your child.
It's it's simultaneously hard emotionally, but the process itself, especially if you're looking at your life objectively and you're saying, hey,
No, I'm talking about the logistical, like being able to go to the court and legally give up your rights. It's actually can be expensive too. It's not easy because one thing you could do is literally one thing you can do is you can like anonymously go to an emergency room, hide your face, and drop off the fucking kid. But like that's hopefully you don't get caught and nailed with child abandonment.
yeah, no, 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 no.
There's really no easy, quick, easy way that doesn't involve lots of months and time and money to put a kid up for adoption legally without literally abandoning them outside a fire station.
Yeah,
Which
but I don't think the conversation of how a late term abortion could mm, physically impact you in a horrible way. I mean, I'm not
can,
saying
can,
all late term.
can I be dead ass with you, bro?
Yeah,
When it comes to the abortion debate, I don't give a fuck. Get an abortion as late as you fucking want. I don't give a fuck.
Here's my point. The reason I say, and this is my point on most things that tend to be liberal ideals, the vagueness, what you claim with me all the time, the vagueness of to what end seems to be what I feel is going to be our biggest issue down this road. And let me tell you what I mean by that. Liberals, left leaning individuals, Democrats, however you want to say it, love the idea of taking an idea and running with it. Not saying Republicans don't do the same thing, but if both, I think if both sides revealed what end game they actually wanted and saying definitive terms, creating definitive lines in the sand, this is these points are easier to argue than just saying, "Oh, well, let it happen all willy nilly." That's not particular to one subject because I feel like you think I'm getting on these subjects particularly. It's a overarching uh, sentiment that I have with this because I feel like with trans rights, it would help so many of the conversations happening if there were definitive terms of what a trans person was and what a trans person wasn't.
All right, I can give you a definitive term.
Okay.
A trans person is someone who, to just keep it in the binary because non-binary people are a thing. Um, Trans people is an individual who was born in their head, like born identifying as a gender that they were not. Like,
I
because gender is a very complex thing, and but broadly speaking, like a transgender person is someone who was born as a man, as we societally describe what a man is, like culturally, like what we expect a man like to be as, or someone who was born as a woman, as we expect what we culturally should expect a woman to be as, and want to be other.
okay. Let me ask a question. Let's not get controversial here. And I'm not saying you were. I'm trying to
No.
say
I think that is a perfectly fine. Someone who was
totally.
born born the gender with who wants someone who wants to have a gender identity different than the one society gave them. There, even simpler.
Is not. I'm not saying that trans people are this. Is gender dysmorphia a thing? Yes or no? Outside of trans people. Not saying that they have gender morphia, sorry.
Oh no, some of them, genuinely do like that. Like gender dysmorphia is a real thing, and people do deal with it.
So, okay. So, is there an easy way to determine gender dysmorphia versus a trans person?
They can be one and the same.
They can be, but is there any way to identify the difference given the definition?
I don't think that distinction matters that much. The
I
reason I say the reason I say it doesn't matter that much is because I said that the definition is someone who
who
wants to
believe that they're a
identify as
separate gender
other
than they are.
than
Yes,
what society has given them as their identity. Simple as that.
but here's the thing: a trans person
Mhm.
is a societal idea. So, like,
No. You mix it up. Gender, the idea, the concept of gender and gender identity is itself a cultural thing. It's there's a reason why gender and gender identity is part of sociology and not biology. There are
Let's
biological aspects of it because sex does feed into gender, but gender is so much more than just what is dangling between your legs. They're
well
not
then
one and the same.
let's keep it on sex then. Let's keep it strictly biological. And not saying
Okay. If you keep it strictly biological, though, like you end up tying a lot of things that we would consider, you know, gender related and stuff like that. You know,
in what way? In what way? How do we keep it sex based as opposed to gender based?
why do we?
Because I
Why?
would rather.
I would argue, why do we need to keep it sex based? That is inherently very limiting, and it's exactly in
It's
its
not
in.
inherently very limiting.
Well, it's
Gender
defined.
becomes too much of a spectrum of conversation.
But
To wait to
the
have a
problem is that gender itself is a spectrum.
but it isn't. At a
It
certain
no,
point, it
no,
is a binary.
it absolutely is.
No.
You
Sexual
have
identity is a
masculine on
spectrum.
one end
Gender.
and you have feminine on the other, and then it's a spectrum between the two.
Oh, because gender. If you're saying gender is the difference, not feminism. I'm sorry. Uh, is the difference between testosterone and estrogen.
And
That doesn't make sense.
right, masculine and feminine are descriptors of types of behavior.
But that has nothing to do with sex.
Right. Because
And that's what
gender identity has on its whole very little to actually do with sex. There is a component because based off of how we as societies have foisted identities based on what people have dangling between their legs, but in reality, what gender identity is more about what you as a person like and feel comfortable in as your types of expression as a person and as your own identity.
well, based on that, then you tend to get into sexist s comments. Let me explain what I mean
Go
by that.
ahead.
If you say construction is a more masculine field, that tends to get misconstrued as sexism. If you say
Second wave, and here's where we get to the different types of feminism. Second wave, so first wave feminism, Susan B. Anthony, the fighting for the 19th Amendment, women's suffrage, that whole thing, that was the first wave. Second wave was 67, was 70s and 80s, boss babes for taking spaces for women, forcing themselves into the workplace and out of the homes, like existing as a woman in a man's world, that type of stuff. And then now you have third wave feminism, which is, if the first wave was about getting women rights, that immutable rights in law, and second wave was about carving out spaces for women in society, third wave feminism is about analyzing and deconstructing the patriarchal systems that made it so women were like that in the first place. And here's why here's why I like third wave feminism and why I talk about it. Third wave feminism also considers what patriarchy does to men, how patriarchy hurts men, and how it forces us into boxes, and how in all of these things, and all of it in a big part of third wave feminism is
yes,
the idea of gender, that women don't have to be, they like it's less about the identity and about the choice of what you want individually, and that's where the gender spectrum comes in, because then
and this is what I'm saying. Wait.
yeah, go
You
ahead.
did not answer anything that I brought forth. You only explained what you wanted to explain. And I'm not coming
So
at
so
you.
so ask
I'm
so
just
ask so ask ask it again.
what I am trying to what I'm asking is, what does that have to do with women continuously choosing the same fields that they have traditionally chosen over and over again? Where is this deconstruction happening? This is why I don't like third wave feminism, because if that is the claim, right? And I have no problem with somebody who identifies as a feminist. I don't care. My issue with it is the claim that this is a
Second
deconstruction.
wave feminists call saying the saying of construction is a more masculine field. They say second wave feminists like second wave feminists like J.K. Rowling, who see the relationship between men and women as adversarial, like they view it as sexist. Second wave feminists view it as sexist. Third wave feminists are a different block because
So here's my question. Hold on, wait. If third wave feminism is all about women's choices, not only
everybody's
that,
choices, not just
well,
women's.
wait. Women's empowered choices, given all the evidence and all the understanding that the first and second wave of feminism provided, right?
Mm-hmm.
What I don't understand is why do women then continue to choose the same traditional roles that they were already in the first place prior to the second wave of feminism? That's what I don't understand.
Why couldn't you or I go in to being an elementary school teacher?
Because you and me both know that the pay of of a teacher period sucks.
Take the pay out of it.
Okay, we
Or
both know that
I don't actually. I think I actually know this. I'm so sorry. I forget that not everybody is the child of teachers.
also childhood teachers, elementary school teachers, is one of the most influential jobs for the youngest generation, and you get paid the shittiest.
Yeah, and that's more of a condemnation of our economic system's priorities than anything else. But I digress. But the reason I brought that up was my mother has told me she's only worked with one, maybe two men as elementary school teachers in the entirety of her career. And my mother had 20 years in primary schools.
Is it fair to say because men are aware of the extreme challenges of teaching children,
Oh no,
including
it's not that
just
they're not aware. It's that the problem is that it is and this is the parallel, the reverse parallel of construction. There are those industries are hostile to to people of the other gender because there are societal preconceived notions. So if in the construction state, they might view like some of the older guys might view the women as weak, or there might not feel safe. Most of the time, women don't really feel safe in an environment surrounded by exclusively men that are stronger than them.
but if
And then it's
under the guise
and then in the case of
so
the element, let me
wait
finish.
under
And
the
then in the case of
guise
the elementary school teacher, you know why couldn't I babysit some of the neighbors' kids when my sister wasn't available? It's weird. You're a guy. You're not supposed to be around kids. There's like that
exactly.
connotation, right? So it's like it's society. It's society. That's in that and that's part of the purpose of third wave feminism. It is to make it so society doesn't put you in these boxes.
Evan, you have lived. Wait, Evan, you've lived
And also, on the note
exclusively.
of the construction jobs, I don't know about you. I don't want to fucking do that shit.
Yeah, I don't either, but it's so interesting to me that this idea that, oh, we need equality, equal inclusion of the genders, even though we know deep down, there are choices that men make that usually are exclusively women, and there are choices that women make that are usually exclusive for men. What I tend to get into combat with is if the idea is everybody should be empowered, everybody should be able to do what they want to do, regardless of any fear or repercussion, there needs to be great courage. And I'm not saying women aren't courageous, but there needs to be a yes, you're going to feel vulnerable. Yes, you may even feel like you're in a dangerous situation. But if this is your job, you should know that there are enough safety things in place to make sure that these things don't happen.
Okay.
And if it does happen, then it is a failure on everybody's part, and everybody should be held accountable for that.
Okay.
In order to make feminism happen, the real feminism that nowadays we really need, we need more risk takers. I can't tell you anybody notable who's been taking risks out of the feminism movement. What's been going on for the past 20 years that I may not be aware of that these feminists or people who are associated with the feminist movement are claiming as successes? Because there's still gender pay discrimination. There's still
ContraPoints.
rape. Huh?
If you want someone who is a great feminist mind, ContraPoints.
Who
ContraPoints. Contra, like
is
the game, points. A trans
okay?
woman
What
on
do you?
YouTube, a trans woman on YouTube who is very smart
Okay.
and is very good. She is, in my personal opinion, probably one of the best non-neoliberal feminists that's around today. And and when you say that, but when you say the type of feminism, like, are you like, is anything that I've said wrong or bad or like not like?
I disagree that they're actively doing what you're saying. Yeah.
I'm
It's
not
like
saying I'm
Black
not saying
Lives
people are
Matter.
actively doing. I'm not like I'm not saying people are actively doing it. Like there are people working on it.
Well,
The
I'm
pro,
sorry. Evan, let me ask you frankly. If there are, right, if there isn't a set amount of people all working on the same goal, all making progress,
Mhm.
how is it a movement? It's the same, it's my same
It
what's it called?
it is around and I see it, but you also have to remember the internet is also a very large place filled with very small communities. Can I ask you a question? Do you watch Abba and Preach?
No.
Okay. All right, good. That's a good thing. But my point is that my algorithm
Mm,
is probably different from yours.
correct.
And these are conversations that I see relatively regularly. And and there's plenty of feminist literature coming out from books, even from neoliberal women, backing this type of stuff up. Just because you do not see it does not mean it doesn't exist.
No, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying as American society as a whole, we are continuing in the
Well,
same trend that we
we're,
have been.
we're currently kind of trying to fight against fascists right now. Like we're
Yeah, but the
I
people
get what
doing
you're
it are
saying, but it's like
half incompetent
we've
themselves.
just lost abortion rights. Like the feminist
Yeah,
movement is
but
taking
nobody.
a bit of a
Evan, stop for a
backseat.
second. Evan, stop for a second. Wait, stop for 1 second. Not only did we lose abortion rights, we're dealing with a multitude of issues right now. We just hit our debt fucking limit.
But we're
We just
talking.
hit our debt
I
limit.
know, but we're not talking. Right now we're talking about like feminism and women's issues. Like I agree.
You're the one.
I agree,
You
but I'm
just
like,
brought it to a different point.
well,
You
no,
brought it
no.
to a different point.
No, my point is continuous. Where I what if you let me finish? I was going to say the modern feminist movement right now is taking a bit of a backseat. Like we still talk about it like in circles, but like outwardly, we're a little more focused on making sure the conservative wing of this country, that 30% of nut jobs, doesn't fucking take away more rights.
And who's working with the government by doing this and not just, posting videos and being like, the liberal movement will live. Yeah.
Progressive
I'm
Victory,
asking.
a political organization that I'm a part of that does canvassing for left wing candidates and with the aim of
Nationwide.
de-seating. Huh?
Nationwide, this is?
Yeah, it's nationwide, dude. Dude, I was fucking like friends of mine were
So,
fucking phone
Evan,
banking
can
in
you
PA.
explain? Can you explain to me then why are so many Republican things being passed and not in, I'm not saying in the judicial system. Why are so many things being passed with the Republicans, even though they're fucking, what's it called, disjointed and disorganized? You literally had a Speaker of the House being voted 15 times until he was elected.
That was
The
fucking
fucking
hilarious, by the way.
Democrats. Yeah, I agree, but the fucking Democrats are not doing anything. This idea,
because most of the 70% of the Democratic Party was born before our parents were born.
I know,
And
I'm
most of them
saying,
are bought by the same groups of people that own the Republicans. And
what
so
I don't understand is how is there? Just explain this to me. How is there affection from our generation of for Democrats in the way that it is? Don't
because
get me wrong.
wait, can you restate the question, please?
Why do they feel Democrats, ones who were born prior to our parents being born, will come and save them at our age? Why do they think this?
Because it's a time game. It's a time game. And here's what I mean.
And
Every single day, another person in Gen Z turns 18. And on that same day, a boomer dies.
yeah, but even if
And let me finish. I'm going to monologue here for a second. I hate the Democrats as much as you do, as much as I think some of the right wing does. But the fact of the matter is here, when let's just to bring up an example, when the George Floyd killing happened,
Mm.
you had the Democrats are doing that stupid fucking floor kneel, and then you had the Republicans trying to, call the National Guard and shoot protesters and try and throw them in prison for having the audacity to be angry that another man was murdered by police officers. And tell me, you have on one side you have incompetence in a party that you see over a long enough timeline you can control, because most of the people that suck are going to be dead in 10 years. And then on the other side, you have people that are literally advocating for laws and actions through stochastic terrorism that will affect people you care about or affects people that are of the same minority or subjugated group as people you love and care about, i.e., Florida's anti-gay laws and legislation and the terroristic attacks on just random fucking drag shows.
I hear you.
So I get that Democrats are effete and ineffectual and pathetic. I agree. But they as far as social concerns are concerned, they are not principally against gay people having rights, black people being not killed by the police, and work and immigrants being thrown in cages, beaten, and kicked the fuck out. Like
And
they're not principally against, like they're not they're like the Republicans. Like it's like that fucking famous meme, and this is the last thing I'll say, where you have Klansmen on one side, and he was saying like Klansmen on one side in full robes and burning crosses, and then you have a bunch of protesters that say signs that say we deserve to exist, and then you have a fucking centrist in the middle saying the words compromise.
well, here's my thing. I get to provide a very interesting perspective because I'm in one of the most liberal states ever. Yes, society
Also,
wise,
one of the most
liberal
hyper-capitalistic states as well.
on the backbone of liberal ideas.
And that's why I fucking hate liberals, because they love to talk all about social justice and inequity and all that shit, and then they
So real
don't
quick,
ever actually
because
do
I'm
anything
probably
to solve economic
because I'm
problems.
probably going to provide a anecdotal perspective of that same point.
Okay.
Yes, you have all of these great things. Trans people could walk down the street, nobody's going to say anything to them. Gay people can be free and open, nobody's going to say anything about that. Abortion is free and open, nobody's going to say anything about that. Here's the thing, all that comes at a price. The financial cost of it all, if you lived in a strictly democratic world with this with this capitalistic system, you get all your social freedoms at a extremely high cost of living.
Right, but you
This
get,
seems
but then you get all of that. Then the Republicans have
wait,
all
no,
of
no,
those
no. This
economic
isn't
systems, anyways.
stop, Evan. This isn't me trying to say. So that point being made, aka the Republicans are better. I'm just saying
Or
nobody
worse, they're
tends to think
worse
about.
because you have none of the social liberation, and you
I
still
would
have
no,
the
no,
fucking
no,
economic
Evan. You
oppression.
misunderstood what I said. You misunderstood how I meant it. I wasn't making that point to then be like Republicans are better. I agree they are worse. However, when you're able to be trans, when you're able to be gay, when you're able to be open and liberal and whatever, right?
A black man be
It
able to
may,
walk down the street and not get shot by the popo.
yeah, here's the thing though. If everybody is pretty much homeless, sure, society wise, that's great, amazing. Go be whatever you want to be. But you're still out on the street or struggling day to day the same way everybody else is. And that's kind of, I'm not saying that Republicans provide a way out for that. I'm saying that point seems to be extremely under addressed. But I do want to ask you one question.
Good. I mean, I
Why
know the answer to that, by the way, your statement there, but continue. I'm sorry.
why do you think that in the future it's going to be any different when there is at least 30% of new Republicans probably going to be produced by the time they could run for office? And we are in the same situation. What do you think is going to be different following this generation, the next few months, where Republican ideas are propaganded out? Because, in my opinion,
I wouldn't
that's the
call them
only way to do it.
Republicans. I'd call them conservative ideas. I think because when you break it down issue by issue, 70, 80, 90% of Americans agree with the economic reforms, the social reforms, things like that, of leftism. Maybe not all the social stuff, but certainly the economic. And the economic is what makes people's lives better. So the reason why I think that things are going to get better on a long enough timeline is because most like the red wave was a red ripple because of our generation. More
Okay.
Gen Z people voted during that midterm, or more people voted during that midterm than any previous midterm in like the last 30 years. And more importantly, the largest swath of people voting for the Democrats were Gen Z. I think it was like 30-40% of votes of Democratic votes cast or more were just Gen Z, and these were the same people that didn't vote in the previous midterm. And so what you're going to have is in the next 2 years, you're going to have even more people being registered to vote. You're also going to have more baby silent generation, baby boomers, and maybe some older Gen Xers die of either old age, choking on a chicken bone, or not getting their COVID shot. And so what ends up happening is are there people in our generation who lean more conservative? Yes. I would argue you are a good example of that. But here's the thing. You're not a fucking conservative. As some like you're
Not saying I am. I'm saying at least
you might have
30%.
some views that are conservative. I have some
Wait, wait,
views that
wait.
are conservative. I'm very conservative on guns.
But Evan, I'm saying in 20 years, not now. In 20 years, when everything is abstract and we don't know our ass from our hand because we're not there yet, what makes you think that at least 30% of the politicians in 2043 aren't going to be the same type of Republicans or conservatives that we're dealing with now? And
Because the new type of conservatives are stepping away from the physical aspect of it, like the monetary aspect of it. It's all about, the things that fire up this new generation of conservatives are culture war issues, wokeism, all this like culture war bullshit. And you can kind of see this in like polls from the Southern Baptist Convention that was done, but of the evangelical base. I think it was 70% of evangelicals now don't believe in the concept of original sin, which is the entire thing that evangelicalism was based off. And the Southern Baptist Convention is, like 40% of the Republican base. Like that is like one of their 10 polls. And when and you have these people that like don't view physical economic conservatism as important, but what they do view as important is like things like abortion, gay marriage, interracial marriage, these culture war issues that are the things that they're very concerned about, like the Great Replacement theory, all this bullshit. But while the reasons why they want these economic systems differ from the way I want them, the thing is they still want to change our capitalistic system in a way that benefits the working class. They want to tax really wealthy individuals. They want capital gains taxes on stock trades and stuff like that. And that is why, because the bedrock of the shitty system we have right now is based on the fact that the Republicans and the Democrats bitch about to each other about social issues all day long. And while those are very important for a lot of different reasons, the fact of the matter is that all of them are neoliberal. All of them are capitalist. And the next generation of conservatives coming up, you know, want an economic system that benefits them and not anybody they consider other. And I want an economic system that benefits everybody. But the thing is that the mechanics of those systems, in terms of what it actually does to make people's lives better, are very similar. And that's why we can't really caucus with them, because they want to change, they want to, like they got a boot on their neck like we do, but they want to be the ones putting the boot on the neck on other people's neck that they deem not worthy. I
I
want to get rid of the boot entirely.
I
But
agree. I
yeah,
agree with you with your assessment until it comes to um, it's going to be the same thing. And what I mean by that is not the issues that we're seeing people die on the sword right now for. In 20 years, I really doubt trans, gay, and abortion rights are going to be a conversation. If they are, if they are past what we're dealing with now, not the existence of it, but how to regulate it on top of it already existing, fine.
it
What
took
the fuck
until
ever.
1998 for the federal, Republican Party to remove the removal of the overturning of Loving versus Virginia from their platform.
This is what I'm saying. I'm saying Republicans and Democrats are going to leave us in the same place that we're seeing right now. It doesn't matter what generation it is, because once you're in politics, you are influenced by the older members of the politics, of the Senate, of the
The
House,
older
of
members are
whatever.
going to be dead, my friend.
The older members, meaning you and me, our ages now, we're going to be the not Nancy Pelosi's, but we're going to be the AOCs right now, right?
Are you
Those,
telling me that having AOC and the rest of the squad as the primary people like them as the primary leadership of the Democratic Party wouldn't lead the Democratic Party in a much more left-wing progressive place than it is right
no.
now?
And
I'm
no,
not,
and I'm
and make no
surprised.
mistake, I have a lot of issues with the squad. They've dropped a lot of their leftist principles in certain ways I'm not happy with. But at the end of the day, Nancy Pelosi was alive at a period in time when, like, was born for like 20 years, was alive on this earth for 20 years before black people were given like equal rights under the Civil Rights Act.
Yeah, and
Like,
she was also one of the world's richest politicians at the time of her leaving Senate. So this is
right.
what I'm saying. I'm saying when you are mentored by corrupted officials, how does the corruption not get mentored or grandfathered in? It has always been what's it called? Bureaucratic. It has always been filled with lining your pockets full of money. So why I agree with your sentiments, but I disagree with your reality in 20 years. Because when they get the money in their pockets and when they get the lobbyists and they get the influence that these people are dealing with right now, Schumer, Pelosi, even though she's gone, AOC is definitely doing it also because of how many things she's gone back on. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter.
Do you remember? Do you remember? Like, I don't know how much you got into the New Deal aspect of American history, but when FDR took over the mess that Hoover had left him, he basically had to deal with all of the rich robber barons, the rich oligarchs and stuff, who were categorically opposed to any new taxes and any of their wealth being taken to help the peons.
Mm.
And he basically gotten in, and this is a true story, abridged, of course. He brought them into a room, all of the captains of industry of the time, and said, listen, we have a population that is poor and starving, and soon they're going to be angry. And
We,
we have
I'm
you have
sorry.
to,
We've talked about this off camera, and I just want to say, I know all about that, and I really don't think in 20 years, I don't even think now we're able to do it, but especially in 20 years, I don't think Biden could do that right now. I don't think Trump could have done it 4 years
no.
ago.
The fact is, no. But what's going to end up happening is we are going to either the politicians that exist are either going to, hopefully, I'm being hopeful here because the alternative is literally us going into the Hudson Valley, going into Beverly Hills, going into like Politician Row in DC, going into like all the going like one of the rich suburbs near Temple in fucking in Philly, like just going to all of these areas and just burning these rich people's shit to the ground.
That's on. I'll say real
Because
quick.
the fact of the
That's on
matter
the
is that either
real quick.
the politicians that age up, and like we have the first Gen Z member of Congress who just Maxwell Frost from Florida. Like the fact of the matter is if what you say comes to pass and that they don't fundamentally change, it doesn't matter because we're just heads are going to roll metaphorically, like both literally and metaphorically.
Well, short. I'm not saying I want either one of these things, but
I don't know.
short of
I kind of want some of these oligarchs' heads on a pike myself.
well, I'm saying short of like a civil war of the poor versus the rich, or a complete reinvention of our politics and how to get into politics and how to remain uh, corrupt proof. I don't see a way out of this because there is no incentive whatsoever to do what your constituents want. 9 times out of 10, your constituents don't know what you did. 9 times out of 10, they re-elect you based on the name. And 9 times out of 10, they're not going to elect somebody new until somebody dies. I'm saying this on every scale aside from president, right? Until people take a vested interest in every single thing your personal local politician does, none of this changes.
I think I have a little more faith in the Gen Zers and the millennials that I think because at the end of the day, it's like the baby boomers have been holding on to power till they die. They're going to continue and they're going to do that, which is like whatever, fine. But over the next 20 years, our generations are going to get more access to the levers of power, and with that is going to come more reformist idea.
Yeah,
Because
but
the
you should
fact,
know
because
this, Evan. You should know this as a kid of history and a big researcher of it. Baby boomers were liberal at one point.
right, and then they obtained assets and wealth, and they became more physically conservative because in the true hyper individualistic greedy ass mindset that Americans have, They wanted to conserve it for themselves. And here's the thing: that trend you're talking about, they've done surveys have started to come out that millennials they're becoming more left wing as they get older.
I don't
Because
know.
they don't own anything. They don't own anything.
That I get. Here's my thing. For the ones who do own stuff or do acquire assets and grow their life to a more sustainable place, does that idea of I want to keep this for myself and protect it as much as I can continue? Because I understand now.
Not
Now,
to the same degree. They might grow more economically conservative and be a little more sussy about, redistribution of wealth and stuff like that. But you don't. They still say socially liberal to a very high degree. They just become liberals. They just become liberals. They don't become leftists. Like millennials are going more towards the left on my side of things. I can't wait till they start surveying Gen Z. Oh my God, these boomers are going to have a heart attack. There's a reason why they're that. There's been some aspects of the conservative wing that have been feeling out the idea of increasing the voting age, like to 21 as opposed to 18.
well, that's obvious, but I don't know.
Because because they're trying to delay the inevitable. Most of Gen Z isn't going to vote for conservative economic or social policies. And the fact of the matter is that there's more of us every single day, and there's less. There's less. They have it's a silver generation. It's like conservatism. It's the ideology of old people.
I don't know. I think once there is an opposition of 30% or more in this country, it slows all progress, socially,
I
economic,
agree. And the hyper
completely.
and the fact of the matter is that most people who are moderate have some socially liberal leanings. Like the fact of the matter is that the culture war things that conservatives are so dead set on talking about they do it because it's so unpopular. Their economic opinions are so unpopular because they've been pushing the same economic agenda since Ronald fucking Reagan 40 fucking years ago, and it hasn't worked it has fucked us over every single time. Did
And
you
I
know that?
mean,
Yeah.
good. I was
In
just gonna say, with that structure already going on, and then a worldwide pandemic on top of it, and then stagflation where we're at right now, what are you supposed to do
is it any
as a
surprise
citizen?
people are going economically left?
Huh?
Is it any surprise that people are leaning to the left economically?
Yeah,
Those people are pissed about the poor railroad workers who are forced to stop their strike.
I wish people would just live in California for a little bit so they can understand the maybe the taxes side of this, because it is so insane. Not only is it stagflation, right? Then you have mass amounts of taxes on everything because that's how California makes the majority of its surplus. Eggs. I literally went to the grocery store less than a week ago. Eggs are almost $10 a dozen. This is
Well,
insanity.
that's not just taxes. There's legit supply chain issues, and you
No, no,
know,
no, I know. I wasn't trying to say that that was
yeah,
a thing
I
because of
know.
taxes.
I'm just saying, like we are in the middle of a recession. We're in the middle of a recession, and and honestly, I'm glad that they haven't fucking said they're in a recession because then JP Morgan's going to hit the recession lever, and I lose my fucking job.
It's bullshit that they have not made it a recession. It's bullshit, and it's only trying to
It's not
save
going to be a
face.
recession until rich people's money starts being affected.
It's already a recession. A recession is any two economic periods that are negative downtrending. That's considered a fucking recession.
Right,
The only
right.
thing,
But rich people are doing fine. Rich people are getting more wealthy. So who gives a shit about us?
yeah, you just have to look at businesses constantly going on a downtrend. Not saying executives aren't making their money, they are.
Oh.
Profit margins and everything like that are starting to go down. That's
I
why
mean,
you see.
I dead ass think we need a 90% corporate tax rate.
I don't know that won't.
And I can defend it. I can defend it. And I bet you money I can make you. I can make you. I can plug any hole. I don't have any holes in my fucking argument.
Okay, here's the biggest thing. What's incentivizes people to run businesses anymore then? Ooh, that's a genuinely good counter statement.
You put yourself on payroll. You pay yourself through payroll.
Okay, are you illegalizing the idea of any businesses moving their corporate headquarters out of country?
Yeah. Well, that's what the global that's what the global tax rate is for, which is a global initiative of 25% tax rate that a company has to pay to a country, like any of the money that is made within that country, they got to pay money into it to that country for it, no matter what the fucking country's tax rate is,
Wait, but did you need to get
which is a goal to prevent corporations from hiding their profits all overseas. So what it basically does is that money that is made within a country, only that pool of money is taxed at that 25%.
you would need I love you, Evan, and I love
Well,
you
no,
always.
the thing is that it's not going to actually be a thing because the United States definitely was not fucking for it because our entire government's bought and paid for by oligarchs.
But also you would
Back
need
to the 90%.
but you would need countries to agree with that.
Let's say that the 90% is any fucking money made within the United States. Like that's got to be taxed. Like if you
For
make
every
money with
corporation ever.
yeah. So if you're a corporation and you have business in the United States, any of the revenue that business within the borders of the United States generates gets taxed. So, for example, if you make a bunch of money over in Great Britain, we're not asking for that. We're just asking for the shit that was made here.
I
That's
love you,
fair.
Evan, but I don't think this works out nearly as much as you think. I'm just
How?
thinking
How
like
does it not? Tell me how it
so.
doesn't.
Well, first of all, 10% profit margins for all businesses ever. What
So
happens?
who does that hurt?
No, no, no.
Shareholders.
What I'm asking is, doesn't that then put the majority of businesses out of business? Wait, hold on. The
No,
majority of businesses out of business.
no, it doesn't, and I'll tell you why. Because you know what is written off taxes?
Mm,
Operating costs. Payroll is an operating cost.
mm,
So let me paint you a picture. Every executive bonus, the executive pay, all the way down to the funkin' janitor getting his hourly paycheck, all of that, it can be written off as a business expense, as operating costs. Those aren't included. So when you go to pay your taxes, you include that and it lowers your tax burden. You don't have to pay that. Makes sense, right? Because
mm.
the government is not trying to take money that you need to run your business. That's why we
Evan,
have these deductions. That
Evan, if a business is only making 10% of its projected revenue every single year because the 90% of its 90% of its projected revenue is being paid into taxes. Wait,
uh-huh.
how does that not come back and bite the minimum wage worker or the bottom end workers' asses? How does that not
And
hurt them?
I will tell you why. Because you
In
don't
this hypothetical,
because you're not able to pay that out to shareholders, you're like,
ugh,
fuck, we got to do something with all this money we've been earning. Maybe if we lower the burden down more, we can pay even more to more people, more to the shareholders. So what do? You take that money and you invest it in R&D, you invest it in pensions. And you want to know why I know this shit will work is because this is how the fuck it happened during the most prosperous era in the United States' history, the fucking 1950s. This is what the fucking tax rate was, and this is what the fuck corporations did. Because they couldn't pay this shit out to shareholders and pocket it, what they ended up fucking doing is they ended up fucking investing in their workers, investing in R&D, which is why we had some of the greatest technological advancement over that decade and the next decade and the decade after that. But when fucking Ronald goddamn Reagan came in and lowered that tax rate to 34%, hey, guess what? We now have all this fucking money that we don't have to pay to the government. So guess what? Now we can put it out to our shareholders instead. when you
Hey,
have
Mr.
a high
Haggard,
tax rate like that,
Mr.
you
Haggard, what
what?
stops these businesses from just firing all of its workers, making machines the primary source of interacting with their businesses, and then just increasing shareholder profit and executive profits as well?
Because executive profits aren't a part of that. Executive profits are part of the operating costs. You write
No, no,
those
no,
off
no, no.
under payroll.
I'm saying the payouts. I'm saying they fire all of their employees, all of the humans that are working for them.
Mhm,
They fully automate this process completely. Sure, it'll
mhm.
take a few years if this corporation tax was instituted. Sure, it takes a few years. What stops it in your hypothetical 5 years down the road? All positions are filled by robotic entities, and you're facing, let's say, even 20% unemployment.
Well, we already exist in a world where Americans' productivity has gone up in the manufacturing sector primarily because of what you've already said. And the this would occur in service jobs. This would occur in jobs where it is required to have a human element. I would say baristas is a good one, nurses is another one.
No, 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 because
Because
wait, hold on. Aside nurses, uh, workers, sorry, just real quick. Aside from nurses, all those workers can be replaced robotically. What I mean is you just go to a kiosk or you automate the drive-through and you automate that whole process. Maybe have one person working. So as opposed to 15 employees on your payroll, you have one now. This is what I'm saying. And if this is
right,
already a
but here's
trend,
the thing: what ends up happening is you have if a company does decide to do that, they're putting tens of millions of workers like millions of workers out of jobs.
that
Um,
doesn't impact them. That impacts the worker.
it does when there's a bunch of angry constituents beating down their fucking congressperson's door at that fact, or looking for easy political wins. Also, the idea that they would just replace everybody, there's very few
There would
industries
be
where you can get complete.
what are you talking about? There would be a huge financial incentive for the executives. I'm just saying the executives. Let's say the board, right? Strictly the board to completely automize everything that doesn't handle AR, everything that doesn't handle uh what's it called? Uh R&D
Hospitality.
and PR. That's literally it. Aside from the board, your PR team and your financial sector, what on earth do you need in a trend where we're already seeing automation taking over real life jobs,
Mhm.
in a world where 90% corporate tax is a proposed idea? What is the incentive for the business owner, for the nameless CEO or board head, I forget the name, chairman, to not do this thing to line his pockets and to keep
Well,
workers on?
for one thing, the amount of when you if you do the shareholders are making less money if they do this. So hear me out. Hear me out. When I make contribute to my 401k out of every paycheck, my tax burden is lowered and I get more money in my paycheck because the money is put in to my 401k before I get taxed. So as far as the government's concerned, I'm getting paid less than I'm actually getting paid.
So
And
just to use real world like ideas. Let's say your paycheck is usually $1,000. 200 of it gets turned into the 401k. You pretty much on the government side of it, they only tax you for $800,
right.
right?
So instead of them taxing me 150, just to be hypothetical, they only tax me 100. I get
Okay.
50 more dollars into my fucking paycheck. The same thing applies here. Because you have a 90% tax rate and you're not lowering that with payroll, which is a gigantic expense. What ends up happening is that your shareholders are now making less money because you're not able to because you're not able to deduct in the eyes of the government. Like you're making a lot more money, and so therefore the government will take a lot more money. But here's the thing: if the government, if now in this world where there's a 90% tax rate, that money is hypothetically going to a strong social safety net. So if a company decides to do something stupid like that, A, their shareholders aren't getting paid as much money, and B, all of the workers are going to be relatively okay because they're housed and fed on the taxpayers' dime. Meaning that company is paying for now those workers that they have automated out.
In that type of system, what is room for upgrading? Meaning, in your personal life, how do you move up?
It's still a capitalistic system. So if you wanted to start a side hustle and start your own business, you definitely could do that. There's nothing stopping you.
Yeah,
I would
I'm just
argue it's
saying.
easier for you to start a small business doing that because if you're living off the government dime, you don't have to worry about large expenses for food. You have stability. And so you can try and fail and still be okay.
I would argue the majority of small businesses are
Mhm.
created out of financial stress. I wouldn't say people were just creating businesses just because. A lot of it, and I may be wrong, but I feel like a lot of it becomes, yeah, this was a business idea I had, and back in the past, it was like a fun idea, what if? But the reason it's real is
Hold
because I
on.
needed money or whatever.
This is the second time Meadows called me. I got to bounce real quick. I'm so sorry.
No problem.